मदद मिल जाएगी कैसे? एक ही है, आप एक बोला इसलिए मैं एक लेके आया। लग जाएगा ना? कौन सा? नहीं वो नहीं है, इनके पास होगी शायद एक्स्ट्रा किसी।
I have lost your poems.
They were unworthy of you. I will write you some more.
No, never any more poems for me. Oh, how could I have been so mad, so rash, so imprudent?
Thank heaven for your madness, your rashness, your imprudence.
Oh, be sensible, Henry. Can't you see what a terrible thing this is for me? Oh, suppose anybody finds those poems. Oh, what will they think of them?
They will think that a man once loved a woman more devotedly than ever man loved woman before. Ah, but they will not know what man it was.
And what good is it to me if everybody will know what woman it was?
But how will they know?
How will they know? My name is all over them. My silly, unhappy name. Oh, if only I'd been Christian, Mary Jane, or Gladys Muriel, or Beatrice, or Francesca, or Guinevere, or something quite common. But Aurora, Aurora. I am the only Aurora in London, and everybody knows it. I believe I'm the only Aurora in the world, and it's so horribly easy to rhyme it. Henry, why didn't you restrain your feelings a little in common consideration for me? Why didn't you write your poems with some little reserve?
Write poems to you with reserve? You asked me that?
Yes, dear, of course. It was very nice of you, and I know that it was my own fault as much as yours. I should have noticed that your verses should never have been addressed to a married woman.
Oh, how I wish they had been addressed to an unmarried woman. How I wish they had.
Indeed, you have no right to wish anything of the sort. They are quite unfit for anybody but a married woman. Oh, that's just the problem. What will my sisters-in-law think of them?
Have you got sisters-in-law?
Yes, of course I have sisters-in-law. Do you suppose I'm an angel?
God, heaven help me. I do. Or I did. Oh.
Listen to me, dear. It's very nice of you to live with me in this dream and to love me and so on. But I can't help my husband having disagreeable relatives, can I?
Of course. They're your husband's relatives. Oh, I forgot that. Forgive me, Aurora.
The fact is, Teddy's got nothing but relatives. He has 8 sisters and 6 half-sisters and ever so many brothers, though I don't mind his brothers. Now, if you only knew the least little thing about the world, Henry, you'd know that in a large family, though the sisters quarrel like mad all the time, yet let one of the brothers marry, and they'll all turn on their unfortunate sister-in-law and devote the rest of their lives with perfect unanimity to persuading him that his wife is unworthy of him. They can do this to her very face without her even knowing it, because there are always a lot of stupid low family jokes that nobody can understand but themselves. Half the times you can't even tell what they're talking about. Oh, it just drives you wild. There ought to be a law against a man's sister ever entering his house after he's married. I am as certain as that I'm sitting here that Georgina stole those poems out of my workbox.
She will not understand them, I think.
Oh, won't she? She'll understand them only too well. She'll understand more harm than ever was in them. Oh, that nasty, vulgar-minded cat.
Oh, don't think of people in that way. Oh, don't think of her at all. Oh, Aurora, do you remember the evening when I sat here at your feet and read you those poems for the first time?
I shouldn't have let you. I see that now. When I think of Georgina sitting there at Teddy's feet and reading them out to her for the first time, oh, I feel I should just go distracted.
Oh, yes, you're right. It will be a profanation.
But I don't care about the profanation. But what will Teddy think? What will he do? Oh, you don't seem to think a bit about Teddy.
To me, Teddy is nothing. And Georgina, less than nothing.
You'll soon find out how much less than nothing she is. If you think that a woman can't do any harm only because she's a scandal-mongering dowdy ragbag, you're greatly mistaken. Henry, help me. Find me a way out of this, and I'll bless you as long as I live. Oh, how wretched I am.
And oh, how happy I am.
Don't be selfish.
Yes, I deserve just that. But I think if I were to die with you, I would still be so happy that your dying wouldn't matter to me.
Henry, you're a dear darling boy, but you're no use. Oh, I want somebody to tell me what to do.
Oh, your heart will tell you at the right time. I have thought deeply over this, and I know what we two must do, sooner or later.
No, Henry. Oh, I will do nothing improper and nothing dishonorable.
If you did, you would no longer be Aurora. Oh, Aurora, our course is perfectly simple, perfectly straightforward, perfectly stainless and true. We love one another. I am not ashamed of that. I am ready to go out and proclaim it to all London, as simply as I will declare it to your husband. And you see, as you soon will see, that this is the only way honorable enough for your feet to tread. Oh, let us go to our own house tonight, without concealment and without shame. Remember, we owe something to your husband. We are his guests here. He's an honorable man. He's been kind to us, and he's perhaps loved you as well, as his prosaic nature and his sordid commercial environment permitted him. We owe it to him in all honor, not to let him learn the truth from the lips of a scandalmonger. Let us go quietly, hand in hand, bid him farewell and walk out of the house without concealment and subterfuge, freely and honestly, in full honor and self-respect.
And where shall we go to?
We shall not depart by a hair's breadth from the ordinary natural current of our lives. We were going to the theatre, and the loss of poems compelled us to take action at once. Or we shall go to theatre still. But we shall leave your diamonds here, because we cannot afford diamonds, and we do not need them.
I have told you already that I hate wearing diamonds. Only Teddy insists on hanging me all over with them. You need not preach simplicity to me, Henry.
I know. I never intended to do so, dearest. I know these trivialities mean nothing to you. Oh, what was I saying? Ah, yes. Instead of coming back here from the theatre, we'll go to my home. Now and henceforth, our home. And in due course of time, when you're divorced, we shall go through whatever ideal legal ceremony you may desire. Oh, I attach no importance to the law. My love wasn't created in me by the law, nor can it be bound or loosened by it. Oh, that is simple enough and sweet enough, is it not? Oh, Aurora, here are flowers for you. I have the tickets. I have the tickets. We shall ask your husband to lend us the carriage, so that there is no malice, no grudge between us. Come.
Teddy isn't in yet.
Well, let us take it calmly. Let us go as if nothing had happened. And tell him when we come back. Now or 3 hours hence, today or tomorrow. What does it matter? Provided all is done in full honor, without shame or fear.
What did you get tickets for? Lohengrin?
I tried, but Lohengrin was sold out for tonight.
Then what did you get?
Can you ask me? What else is there besides Lohengrin that we two can endure, except Candida?
Candida? No, I won't go to it again. Oh, it's that way that has done all the mischief.
Aurora?
It ought to be stopped.
Oh, Aurora!
I mean it, Henry.
That divinest love poem, that poem that gave us the courage to speak to one another, that revealed to us what we really felt about one another, that...
Just so. It put a lot of stuff into my head that I should have never imagined for myself. Oh, I imagined myself just like Candida.
Oh, you were right. You are like Candida.
Oh, and I thought you were like Eugene. Now that I come to look at you, you rather like him too.
Aurora, if Candida had loved Eugene, she would have walked out with him in the night without a moment's hesitation.
Henry, do you know what's wanting in that play?
Oh, there is nothing wanting in it.
Yes, there is. There is a Georgina wanting in it. Oh, if Georgina had been there to make the trouble, that play would have been a true-to-life tragedy. Now, I'll tell you something about it that I never told you before.
What is that?
I took Teddy to it. I thought it would do him some good. And so it would, if only I could have kept him awake. And Georgina came along too. And you should have heard the way she went on about it. She said it was downright immoral and that she knew the sort of woman who encourages boys to sit on the heath rug and make love to her. Oh, she was just preparing Teddy's mind to poison it about me.
Let us be just to Georgina, dearest.
Let her deserve it first. Just to Georgina, indeed.
She really sees the world in that way. That is her punishment.
How can that be her punishment when she likes it? Oh, it would be my punishment when she makes that budget of poems to Teddy. Should have some sense and sympathize with my position a little.
I don't really care about Teddy or about Georgina. All these squabbles belong to a plane on which I am no use. I have counted the cost, and I do not fear the consequences. After all, where is the difficulty? What is there to fear? What can Georgina do? What can your husband do? What can anybody do?
Do you mean to propose that we walk right bang up to Teddy and tell him that we're going away together?
Yes. What can be simpler?
And do you think that for a moment he'd stand it like that half-baked clergyman in the play? Oh, he'd just steal you, Henry.
You don't seem to understand these things, my darling. How could you? In one respect, I am unlike the poet in the play. I have followed the Greek idol and not neglected the culture of my body. Your husband would make a tolerable second-rate heavyweight if he were in the training and 10 years younger. As it is, he could, if strung up to a great effort by a sudden burst of passion, give a good account of himself for perhaps 15 seconds. But I am active enough to keep out of his reach for 15 seconds. And after that, I should be simply all over him.
What do you mean by all over him?
Oh, don't ask me, dearest. You, at all events, I swear to you, you need not be anxious about me.
What about Teddy? Do you mean to tell me that you're going to beat him up before my face like a brutal prize writer?
All this alarm is needless, dearest. Believe me, nothing will happen. Your husband knows I am capable enough of defending myself. And under such circumstances, nothing ever does happen. Of course, I shall do nothing. The man who once loved you is sacred to me.
Doesn't he love me still? Has he told you anything?
No, no, dearest, dearest. How agitated you are. How unlike yourself. All these worries belong to a lower plane. Come up with me to the higher one. The heights, the solitudes, the soul world.
No, stop. It's no use, Mr. Upjohn.
Mr. Upjohn?
I meant Henry, of course.
How could you even think of me as Mr. Upjohn? I'll never think of you as Mrs. Bumpus. For me, you're always candid. I mean Aurora.
That's all very well, Mr. Upjohn. No, it's no use. I've suddenly begun to think of you as Mr. Upjohn. And it's ridiculous to go on calling you Henry. Oh, I thought you were only a boy, a child, a dreamer. I thought you'd be much too afraid to do anything. And now, you want to beat Teddy, break up my home, disgrace me, and make me a horrible scandal in the papers. Oh, it's cruel, unmanly, and cowardly.
Are you afraid?
Of course I'm afraid. So would you be if you had any sense.
Perfect love does not know fear. That is why I am not afraid. Mrs. Bumpus, you do not love me.
Oh, thank you, Henry. You really can be very nice.
Oh, why do you thank me?
For calling me Mrs. Bumpus again. Now I feel that you shall be reasonable and behave like a gentleman. What's the matter?
Once or twice in my life, I have dreamt that I was exquisitely happy and blessed. But oh, the misgiving at the first stir of consciousness, the stab of reality, the prison walls of the bedroom, the bitter, bitter disappointment of waking. And this time, oh, this time I thought I was awake.
Listen to me, Henry. We really haven't the time for all this sort of flapdoodle now. Oh, you really hit me.
I beg your pardon. What is it that you want me to do? I am at your service. I am ready to behave like a gentleman if you'd be kind enough to explain me exactly how.
Thank you, Henry. I was sure you would. You're not angry with me, are you?
Oh, go on quickly. Give me something or else I will.
No, don't break my fan. That's a really stupid trick. I don't like that. You have no right to do that. How inconsiderate of you.
I beg your pardon. I'll buy you a new one.
You will never be able to match it. And it was a particular favorite of mine.
Then you'll have to do without it. That's all.
That's not a very nice thing to say after breaking my pet fan, I think.
If you knew how close I was to breaking Teddy's pet wife and presenting him with the pieces, you'd be thankful to be alive instead of howling about 5 shillings worth of ivory. Damn your fan!
Oh, don't you dare swear in my presence. One would think you're my husband.
This is some horrible dream. What has become of you? You are not my Aurora.
If you come to that, what has become of you? You think I would have encouraged you if I'd known that you were such a little devil?
Oh, don't drag me down. Don't. Help me find a way back to the heights.
If you'd only be a little reasonable. If you'd only remember that I'm on the brink of ruin and not go on calmly saying that it's all quite simple.
It seems so to me.
If you say that once again, I shall do something I'll be very sorry for. Here we are, standing at the edge of a frightful precipice, and no doubt it's quite simple to go and have done with it. But can't you suggest something more agreeable?
I can suggest nothing now. A chill black darkness has fallen. I can see nothing but the ruins of our dream.
Can't you? Well, I can. I can see Georgina rubbing those poems into Teddy, and I tell you, Henry of John, that you got me into this mess and you must get me out of it again.
All I can say is that I'm at your service. What is it you wish me to do?
Oh, well, do you know anybody named Mrs. Bombus?
No.
There is no use in saying no in this frozen pig-headed manner. You've got to know some or the other Aurora somewhere.
Oh, you said you were the only Aurora in the world. And, oh God, you were the only Aurora in the world to me.
Yes, dear, of course. It's very nice of you, and I appreciate it. Indeed, I do. But it's just not reasonable at present. Now, tell me very particularly. Do you know all these poems by heart?
Yes, by heart. Don't you?
Well, I can never remember verses. And besides, I've been so busy that I haven't had time to read them all. Though I intend to the very first moment I get. I promise you that most faithfully, Henry. But now tell me very particularly. Does the name Bombus occur in any of your poems?
No.
Are you quite sure?
Of course I'm sure. How would I use such a name in a poem?
And I don't see why not. It rhymes to rumpus, which seems quite appropriate enough for the present moment. Goodness knows. However, you're the poet and you ought to know.
What does it matter now?
Oh, it matters a lot, I can tell you. If there's nothing about Bombus in the poems, then we can say that they were written to some other Aurora and that you showed them to me because my name is Aurora too. So we've got to invent another Aurora for the occasion.
If you wish me to tell a lie.
Surely, as a man of honor, as a gentleman, you wouldn't say the truth, would you?
Very well. You've broken my spirit and desecrated my dreams. I will lie and protest and stand on my honor. I will play the gentleman, never fear.
Yes, put it all on me, of course. Don't be mean, Henry.
You're quite right, Mrs. Bumpus. I beg your pardon. Please excuse my temper. I've got growing pains, I think.
Growing pains?
The process of growing from romantic boyhood to cynical maturity usually takes 15 years. When it is compressed to 15 minutes, the pace is too fast and growing pains are the result.
Is this a time for cleverness? Now it's settled, isn't it, that you'll be nice and good and that you'll brazen it all out to Teddy, that you have some other Aurora?
Yes, I am capable of anything now. I shouldn't have told him the truth by half, and now I will not lie by half. I will value in the honor of a gentleman.
Dearest boy, I knew you would. Shh!
What is it?
It's Teddy. I heard him tapping the new barometer. He can't have anything serious on his mind. Why would be doing that? Perhaps Georgina hasn't said anything. Oh, try and look as though nothing's the matter. Hand me my gloves, quick. Go further away from me, quick. Now, if I were to button my glove and you were to hum a tune, then don't you think that...
For the tableau would be complete in its guiltness. For heaven's sake, Mrs. Bumpus, let that glove alone. You look like a pickpocket.
I thought you two were at the theatre.
Oh, I felt anxious about you, Teddy. Why didn't you come home to dinner?
Oh, I got a message from Georgina. She wanted me to go to her.
Poor dear Georgina. I'm sorry I haven't been able to call on her this last week. I hope there's nothing the matter with her.
Nothing, except anxiety for my welfare and yours. By the way of John, I should like a word with you this evening, if Aurora can spare you for a moment.
Oh, I'm at your service.
No hurry. After the theatre will do.
Oh, we have decided not to go.
Indeed. Well, then shall we adjourn to my snuggery?
Oh, I shall go and lock up my diamond since we're not going to the theatre. Hand me my things.
So if it's not disturbing you, Rory.
Oh, not at all.
Do these manuscripts seem at all familiar to you? May I ask?
Manuscripts?
Yes. Would you like to look at them a little closer?
Oh, why? These are my poems.
So I gather.
What a shame. Mrs. Bumpus has shown them to you. Oh, you must think me an utter ass. I wrote them years ago after reading Swinburne's Songs Before Sunrise. Oh, nothing would do me then. But I must write a set of songs to the sunrise. Aurora, you know, the rosy-fingered Aurora, the roll-out Aurora. When Mrs. Bumpus told me her name was Aurora too, I couldn't resist the temptation of lending them to her to read. I did not bargain for your unsympathetic eyes.
John, that's really very ready of you. You are cut out for literature, and the day will come when Rory and I will be proud to have you about the house. I have heard far thinner stories from much older men.
Do you mean like that you don't believe me?
Do you expect me to believe you?
Why not? I don't understand.
Come, don't underrate your own cleverness, John. I think you understand pretty well.
I assure you I'm quite at a loss. Can you not be a little more explicit?
Don't overdo it, old chap. However, I will just be so far explicit as to say that if you think these poems read as if they were addressed not to a live woman, but to a shivering cold time of day, at which you were never out of bed in your life, you hardly do justice to your own literary powers, which I admire and appreciate, mind you, as much as any man. Come, own up. You wrote those poems to my wife. Of course you did.
Mr. Bumpus, I pledge you my word you're mistaken. I need not tell you, Mrs. Bumpus is a lady of stainless honor who has never cast an unworthy thought on me. The fact that she's shown you my poems...
That's not a fact. I came by them without her knowledge. She didn't show them to me.
Does not that prove their perfect innocence? She would have shown them to you at once if she would have taken your quite unfounded view of them.
John, play fair. Don't use your intellectual gifts. Do you really mean that I'm making a fool of myself?
Believe me, you are. Mr. Bumpus, I assure you on my honor as a gentleman that I have never had the slightest feeling for Mrs. Bumpus. Beyond the ordinary esteem and regard of a pleasant acquaintance, of course.
Oh, indeed.
I should never have thought of writing poems to her. The thing is absurd.
Why is it absurd?
Well, it happens to be that I do not admire Mrs. Bumpus in that way.
Let me tell you that Mrs. Bumpus has been admired by better men than you. You soapy-headed little puppy, you!
Oh, there is no need to insult me like this. I assure you on my honor as a gentleman.
You don't admire Mrs. Bumpus. You would never dream of writing poems to her. My wife's not good enough for you, it seems. Who are you? Pray that you should be so jolly superior?
Mr. Bumpus, I can make allowances for jealousy.
Jealousy? Do you suppose I'm jealous of you? No, not of men like you. But if you think I stand here and let you insult my wife in her own house, you are mistaken.
Oh, how can I convince you? Be reasonable. I tell you, my relations with Mrs. Bumpus are relations of perfect coldness, of indifference.
Say it again, say it again. You are proud of it, aren't you? You are not worth kicking.
Look here, I'm not going to stand this.
Oh, you have some blood in your body after all. Good job.
This is ridiculous. I assure you, Mrs. Bumpus is quite very...
What is Mrs. Bumpus to you? I'd like to know. I'll tell you what Mrs. Bumpus is. She is the smartest woman in the smartest set in South Kensington. 3 of her first actor managers have offered her 100 a week if she'd go on the stage when they started Alphabet Theatre. The only member of the present cabinet that you might call a handsome man has neglected the business of the country to dance with her, though it won't belong to her set as a regular thing. One of the first professional poets in Bedford Park wrote a sonnet to her worth all you amateur trash. As quote last season, the eldest son of a duke excused himself from calling on me on the ground that his feelings to Mrs. Bumpus were not consistent with his duty to me as a host. And it did him honor and me too. But she isn't good enough for you, it seems. You regard her with coldness, with indifference, and you have the cool cheek, so to say, on my face. For 2 pence at flatter limousine to teach you manners. Introducing a fine woman to you is costing pearls before swine. Before swine, do you hear?
You call me a swine again and I'll land you one on the chin that make your head sing for a week.
What?
Teddy! You shan't, Teddy, you shan't. He's a prize fighter. He'll kill you.
Oh, I'll price fight him.
Henry, don't let him fight you. Promise me that you won't.
I've got the most frightful bump on the back of my head.
Not until you promised. Teddy, you promised to be good. Be promised.
I won't unless he takes it back.
He takes it back. He takes it all back. Don't you, Henry?
Oh, I take it back. I take it all back without reserve.
Now, won't you two shake hands and be good?
Oh, I shall do nothing of the sort. I have steeped myself in lies for your sake. And the only reward I get It's a lump on the back of my head, the size of an apple. Now I'll go back to the straight path.
Henry, for my sake, please, do not go back.
No, it's no use. Your husband is a fool and a brute.
What's that you say?
I say, you're a fool and a brute. And if you'll step out with me, I'll say it again. Those poems were written to your wife. Every word of them. And to nobody else. I wrote them because I loved her. I thought her the most beautiful woman in the world. And I told her so over and over again. I adored her. Do you hear?
You don't mean it.
I adored her. And I told her so over and over again. I adored her. Do you hear? I told you that you are a sordid commercial chump. Utterly unworthy of her. And so you are.
You don't mean it.
Yes, I do mean it. And a lot more too. I begged and implored her to walk out the house with me this very night. It's a refusal that ended everything between us. What she can see in you, goodness only knows.
Oh, my dear chap, why didn't you say it so before? I apologize. Come, don't be malice. Shake hands. Make him shake hands, Rory.
Forgive him. Take his hand. Shake hands with him.
You have got to own that none of the literary heroines can touch my Rory. Rory, they can't resist you. None of them. Never knew a man yet that could hold out for 3 days.
Don't be silly, Teddy. I hope you won't really hurt Henry. Oh boy, oh, what a bump. I must get you some vinegar and brown paper.
Will you do me a great favor, John? I hardly like to ask, but it would be a real kindness to us both.
What can I do?
Well, may I get the poems printed? It shall be done in the best style, the finest paper, sumptuous binding, everything first class. Oh, they are beautiful poems. I should like to show them about a bit.
Henry, if you wouldn't mind.
I don't mind. I'm past minding anything now. I've grown too fast this evening.
How old are you, Henry?
This morning I was 18. Now I'm confounded. I'm quoting that beast of a play.
Oh, well, what shall we call the volume? To Aurora or something like that?
Oh, I should call it How He Lied to Her Husband.